What's up everybody? Today we are going to be doing a tier list here on the channel. This tier list is the best Anbennar starts if you are just looking to jump into the mod for the first time. Alright, so we have S through D tiers, and it's going to be based off of the content that's available, though every nation I've chosen has lots of content, the difficulty of the start, and if it gives you a chance to really dive in and learn about the mod as you're playing. So the first nation that we're going to be ranking is Gwed. Now, Gwed starts off in a pretty good spot. It's one of the strongest nations in the beginning. The only real threat that you have around you is the nation of Laurent to your south. They have a large army. They can tear apart everybody to the north of them for the most part. So for that reason, I'm going to give them an A tier. And I'm not going to give them an S because you will have some difficulty with Laurent. Laurent will be stronger than you. But I think it's in a strong enough spot. It has a lot of content and it really lets you dive into the mechanics of the mod. The next nation is the Nation of Nimsgod, and I'm going to put them at a C tier. Now, I love the Nation of Nimsgod, but I don't know if it's the best first nation to start off with. It's a really difficult start. You're the wrong religion and wrong culture. You're always going to be surrounded, and any expansion you do is going to have lots of aggressive expansion. It can be a little bit tough. I do think everybody should play Nimsgod. They're a super fun campaign, but I don't think it's going to be the best choice if you're just starting out for the first time. So the next nation is Istralor, and Istralor is going to be our first S tier starter nation. Istralor is in a good spot because it's very easy for you to get the emperorship of the Empire of Anbennar, which is essentially the Holy Roman Empire. There's no one around them that really threatens them, and the only person that's semi your size near you is most likely going to be your ally. So again, really strong. You can delve into kind of the Empire of Anbennar, see what's up there. You can interact with different races and cultures as you expand within the Empire. It's a really good start to learn about everything that you want to learn and not be threatened by too many people. So the next nation, Laurent, easy S tier. All right, strongest nation to start off with in the game. You can colonize, you can focus on Europe. This is essentially like a mix of France and Spain almost. As Laurent, there's really no one around you that can stop you. You can smash Gwed, and after that, you could just take on the Empire solo, most likely. Lots of opportunities to expand. You can really dive into any mechanic that you want. Honestly, all around, a great first pick. Now, the next nation is Bpec, and Bpec is a halfling nation, and I'm going to put them in B tier. And I put them in B tier because Bpec can be a fairly easy campaign. If you just stay in the Empire of Anbennar and you expand, you'll do all right. You'll be able to take people out, no problem. But Bpec's mission tree leads them to taking land from both Gwed and Laurent, who are, without a doubt, more powerful than them. So it can be a fairly difficult campaign, but if you want to kind of dive and see what it's like to play something that's other than a human, I think Bpec's a good option. They have a lot of different kind of military kind of styles, I would say, because they rely on mercenaries instead of on just regular troops. So it can be an interesting and unique campaign, but it can be a little difficult if you try and follow their mission. So up next we have Bluescale. Bluescale, D tier. All right, this is an incredibly difficult campaign to get started. You'll have to retry a bunch. Once you kind of figure out how to play the kobolds, then you'll do all right. But in the beginning, you will get absolutely smashed by Gwed, by Laurent, by Riveria. Everybody around you wants to kill you. They automatically have a CB because you're a monster nation. And so you get thrashed a couple times. But once you kind of start getting the ball rolling, the kobolds can become extremely powerful. Super fun campaign. I'd wait a little bit though. Try some other things first. All right, so the next nation that we're going to have is the Jadari. And I was debating where I wanted to put them, and I think I'm going to put them in B tier, which I don't know, might be a bit controversial. Jadari is an interesting start. Essentially, you're going to get an event early on to go to war, and if you win one of the correct battles, then you instantly annex a country and do like double your size. So that's really easy to do. The problem with Jadari is that it's elven military. You're losing a lot of manpower. You can't get it back. Once you kind of know how the mod works and what you need to do to be successful, I think Jadari is a super fun playthrough. But just diving in the first time, I think new players are going to really struggle with trying to make the Jadari work, and you're not really going to be able to dive into mechanics as much because Jadari is so focused on constantly expanding. But it is a super fun campaign. The next nation is Frozen Maw. Now, I have not played Frozen Maw campaign yet, but from what I've seen, they look like a pretty B tier. They can be a little bit tricky. Gwed can give you some problems, but if you can start to get the ball rolling on them, you can expand like crazy. You get the frontier expansion like in Russia does in the base game. So you can really start to grow your power base in uncolonized lands and use that to maybe dive into Eskin or even further to the east. So up next we have Westone. Westone is another S tier start, a super good nation to go as. You can easily get control of the empire. You can get a free personal union over Laurent, I believe, if you really want that. You can reform the nation of Demaria, strong national ideas. You start with a lot of development, a lot of expansion opportunities. If you really wanted to, you could also go for a colonial game, try and get some colonial nations. There's a lot of opportunity with Westone, and it's a great first campaign. So up next, we have Versatencius, a Sun Elven nation in the Bulwark. I'm going to give them an A tier ranking. I think they are a good first choice if you want to figure out how Elven military and administration works and how you need to shape your nation and expansion around that idea. Another reason they're A tier is because with the recent update, you can customize the type of military you have with them, which I think is super interesting and will allow players to pick a playstyle that's more natural to the way that they want to do so. They're one of the strongest nations in the Bulwark, so you don't have to worry too much about threats from around you, and there's plenty of expansion opportunities, so they're a really solid place to start off with. So up next, we have the Ruby Company. This is a dwarvish adventurer nation, so they start out as a migratory nation that can settle down. There are super fun campaigns that you can play as the dwarves, but I am going to put them in C. I don't know if it's the best, like, full playthrough. I think everybody should at least give them a shot when they're relatively new. Well, okay, I guess I'll give them a B then. I'll give them a B, because everybody should try it, because the dwarves are super unique, and you can't find anything like them in the base game. But it can be kind of tricky to learn how to play the dwarves successfully, and there are lots of disasters that come with being a dwarf too, and if you're not ready for those, they can tank your nation and ruin a campaign. So I think dwarves, very fun, but maybe hold off on them until you go through a campaign with someone else to kind of learn how all these new parts of the mod interact with each other. The next nation we have is our second monstrous nation, and that is the nation of Marblehead. Marblehead are goblins that are found in the Bulwark, pretty close to Versatencius, actually. So I'm going to put them in a C tier. Playing a monstrous nation is somewhat difficult, especially when you're only surrounded by non-monstrous nations. They get a free CB on you, and they can annex a lot of your country if things go bad. Another thing is that you are a goblin, so different culture, in a different religious group. So everywhere you expand is going to cause a lot of aggressive expansion. I think it's a very fun campaign. It's an uphill battle, but I think that if you can learn how the mechanics of the mod work, then you can easily have a fantastic campaign with Marblehead. Just maybe not for the first campaign, maybe hold off for something a little bit easier, unless you're looking for a monstrous challenge, and then these guys are right here. And then we have Vanille. So Vanille is, in my opinion, a like B+, right? They're not quite an A tier, but I think they're a pretty strong choice for new players. They're super focused on colonization. So if you want to colonize, Vanille, easy pick. So they get so many bonuses, they make Portugal look weak when it comes to colonization. Their difficulty is the fact that you are only focused on colonization. You can't really do much in the beginning to expand into Canor because you are close to Laurent. And Laurent may declare war on you. Now, you don't have to worry about Laurent beating you. You start off with like a god tier admiral. So Laurent's never going to win the naval battle, but you'll never be able to win on land. So if you get stuck in one of these wars, it could drag on for a long time and distract your navy from doing other important things. But I think they're a pretty good choice if you want to colonize. Next up, we have the nation of Wex. They start out as the Emperor of Anbennar. I think that Wex is an A tier start. You can keep the emperorship if you play as Wex. There are some downsides to it. You're like a foreign culture group in the empire compared to most other people. That can make it a little difficult in keeping emperorship and expansion. But overall, Wex is in a super strong position. You start off with a really good ruler. Everything is looking up for Wex. A good choice if you want to be diving into the mod. And then we have the Magisterium. So Magisterium is also going to be an A tier nation. I really like the Magisterium. They are a magocracy. Alright, so you can choose to have a magical ruler every single time, and there are lots of bonuses that can come with having a ruler that has magical capabilities. You also start off in a pretty strong position. You're on an island in the Empire, and once you consolidate that island, you can just build up a galley fleet and no one can touch you. They also have little enclaves around the Empire. You can also expand in those areas as well. I think the Magisterium is a good choice if you want to kind of explore how magic works in the setting. I definitely recommend that you go with them. So Corvoria is a nation that I also haven't played much, just like Frozen Mall. I'm going to put them in B tier. They are right on the outside of the Empire of Anbennar, so they have to contest with that. And I know their mission tree kind of focuses on breaking the Empire apart. So if you can do that, Corvoria is going to become even stronger. The reason that I like Corvoria is they are on the border between Canor and Eskin. So you kind of have two continents that you can easily expand into, and you could probably even get to the Bulwar pretty easily. You know what, now that I'm saying that out loud, I think I'm gonna put them in A tier. I think A tier is better. Lots of expansion opportunities, it's very good. There are some other secret things that go on with Corvoria that are really, really cool, really interesting, unique content that you won't find in the base game. So I definitely recommend that you at least check them out and give them a shot. So our second to last nation is going to be Celen. They are a wood elven nation that is in the deep wood, and I'm going to put them in C tier. Right, they're nowhere near as hard as the Bluescale kobolds or any of the kobolds for that matter, but the wood elves start off with tech 2, which is never a great thing. Luckily, you're pretty isolated from outside the forest, but you do have to compete with orcs and goblins, and the orcs in the early game can do a lot of damage against the elves because orcs get bonuses to shock and all kinds of stuff. But Celen can be a bit difficult. It's kind of isolated from the rest of the mod for at least like 150 to 200 years. So I don't really think it's a good place to start if you're just diving in. I think it's a fun campaign, but not to start with. And finally, we have the nation of Moonhaven. Moonhaven is an elven nation in the Empire of Anbennar. I'm putting these guys in A tier. They're a pretty strong nation. They've got an interesting mission tree, and it really lets you kind of dive into how elves work when you're surrounded by humans. Right, and it kind of teaches you how integration mechanics work and stuff like that. And I think they're really interesting, and I think it could give a good baseline experience with the mod. So this is what the tier list ends up looking like. I'm satisfied with the way it looks. Do you have any disagreements though? Do you think that maybe some nations should be switched around? If you do, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to think about it. If you want to see more content like this on the channel, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. That way I know that you like this kind of content. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.